Hey, shalom, shalom.
Um,
Hayawam Tawab La'atham, which is good day unto you all. Anachna Wahai Bar Sha'ale with the Hebrew Israelites, coming to you week in and week out through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, to preach to you so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans, West Indian Nations, Israelite foreigners, Nachamatam, Kaya, Hamalakat, Hashemayim, Quad Repent ye for the kingdom of heaven is at hand. First and foremost, before we get started, we go ahead and give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rocha, Kodash, double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone that taught us this truth and rule well. And much respect to you, bros, that they're pushing this truth with all righteousness and sincere. Shalom, shalom. All
Shalom.
right, so just as the lesson is entitled, it says truth is linear. All right, we have a screenshot, just provide some edification on it, and Abarata Zabadaya Pa, Lord's will, or Father willing, this is a beautiful edification in the spirit. All right,
Mm,
and I'll start with the screenshot. It says. It says position of the 22 letters line, because truth is linear,
mm,
meaning it's going to have a beginning, a middle, and an ending. Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai Bahasham, Chak, Wadash Barakatah, Wa Shalom. But it says the
Shalom.
observation of the relative or absolute positions of the letters in the biblical Hebrew alphabet from the first letter Alap to the last letter Tawa reveals divine messaging from the Most High. It said the diagram represents four illustrations. When considered together, indicate the scientific code system constitutes the Most High's messaging, which it says humanity, but pretty much to the elect,
Right.
chiefly to the elect. But it says truth, and when we read it, Hebrew is read from right to left, which is this is the Assyrian characters, but
Mm,
it essentially illustrates. It says Amat. All right, and the red right there says Shaquar, which that's a lie, or that Shaquar. It has the quad, the rod, and the shah, but if you put them in the correct order, the red letters Shaquar would be a falsehood, all right, or a lie or a deception. That's why it's highlighted in red. But it says the Most High gives great importance to truth. In biblical Hebrew, the word for truth 441 Amath is constructed, and 441 is essentially what it adds up to. The Tha is 400, the Ma is 40, the Ah is 1, Achad. But it says it's constructed. Amath is constructed from the first letter in biblical Hebrew alphabet, Alat Bayat, the very middle letter Ma or Mayam, and the last letter Tawa, indicating the truth encompasses the entirety of a spectrum rather than being limited to a single definitive point. This message from the Most High is reflected in the common expression, the truth, the whole truth, so help you the Most High. So the truth is everything. It ain't just where we got the red letters, and we'll actually get a precept just going into that real fast. This is Za'ayawab. This is Job chapter uh chapter 20, and we'll get verse 5. And it says that the triumphing of the wicked is short, and the joy of the hypocrite but for a moment. And pretty much we'll read from verse 4. It says, knowest thou not this of old, since man was placed upon earth, that the triumphing of the wicked is short, and the joy of the hypocrite but for a moment. Because when we go back to that screenshot, Shaquar, in the red, that was only for a moment. That lie didn't go from the lie don't go from Ma to, or it doesn't go from Ah to Ma to Tha. It only got that short period of time. And
mm,
and essentially when it's a truth, it's supposed to have a beginning, a middle, and an ending. And when we
mm,
when we look at the beginning, or the first part, the Ma is the water. The water, truth flows, water flows. So if it's the truth, it's gonna go from the beginning, it's gonna flow all the way to the end. Allah is gonna be just a short, something short.
mm,
It's gonna be like this ain't adding up. This don't line up. That's what that saying go back to. This don't line up.
mm,
Because truth is supposed to be linear.
mm,
I'm gonna get this too, because that word is written in red letters. All right, and that's
mm,
essentially the spirit of Esau Edom. That's why it's written in red. But it
right.
says John 8:44. It says, "Ye are of your father the devil, and the lust of your father ye will do. He was a murderer from the beginning, and abode not in truth." You can't abide in the truth if you're telling a lie. That's why again it's written in red. It says, "And abode not in the truth, because there is no truth in him. When he speaketh the lie, Shaquar, the red letters, it says, when he speaketh a lie, he speaketh of his own, for he is a liar and the father of it. And essentially, Esau takes on the spirit of Cain, and essentially, he was a murderer and a liar, So that's essentially, again, why it's written in red. Esau is that red man, the true red man, Adawam. That's what Edom means, red. All right, but just want to get some precepts, just edified on this topic. You see, because truth, again, it has a beginning, achad, it has a middle, all right, mayam or arabayam, which goes into the ma, the middle, all right, because ma is the middle of alat bayat, the alphabet, all right, and then the tha is the ending, because truth is gonna comprise of all that. It's not gonna be any broken pieces. All right. And that's why the scriptures say this right here. I'm gonna get this. If you ain't have nothing, bro.
No, I was just gonna mention, how it includes everything. It's all from beginning to the end. When you look at that word shaquar, it looks like it starts from the end, and then it goes to the beginning, and then it goes to the middle, which is all messed up.
Right. Because it goes into some type of falsehood,
Right. And to be able to thrive off of lies, you got to create some type of confusion. And it is confusion to start off at the end and then go to the beginning and then end with the middle. It just doesn't make no sense.
Right. And then at the same time, too, truth is always going to be the truth. No matter, what someone says about this or that, the truth is the truth. It ain't no, oh, well, I feel like this, you come from this angle. Nah, the truth is the truth. It's only one reality, and the reality is the reality, So this is Ezekiel chapter 3 and verse 1. It says, moreover, he said unto me, son of man, eat that thou findest, eat this roll, and go speak unto the house of Yasha'Allah. So I opened my mouth, and he caused me to eat that roll. And he said unto me, son of man, cause thy belly to eat, and fill thy bowels with this roll that I give thee. Then did I eat it, and it was in my mouth as honey for sweetness. All right. I think I'm going to get this one real fast, because essentially that roll is going into the scriptures, but this is Revelation chapter 10 and verse 10. Yeah, it says verse 9. It says, now I went unto the angel and said unto him, give me the little book, talking about the scriptures. And he said unto me, take it and eat it up, and it shall make thy belly bitter, but it shall be in thy mouth sweet as honey, because that the honey is going to, you find that you're Israelite. All right. Ultimately, salvation is for Yasha'Allah, the elect of Israel, and you also may have a chance, to make it. All right. That bitter goes into the different adversities and things of that nature. But it says, take it up and eat it. Take it and eat it up, and it shall make thy belly bitter, but it shall be in thy mouth sweet as honey. And I took the little book out of the angel's hand and ate it up, and it was in my mouth sweet as honey. And as soon as I had eaten it, my belly was bitter. All right, because truth, again, it comprises the whole thing, the sweet, the bitter, all of it. Let's also get we get Psalms chapter 33 and verse 4. And I'm gonna get Psalms 119 and verse 160. I'm gonna get that Psalms first, though. This is Psalms 119 and verse 160. And it says, because again, truth has a beginning. All right, it ain't jumbled up. All right, it says Psalms 119 and verse 160. It says, thy word is true from the beginning, and every one of thy righteous judgments endureth forever. Truth is forever. Again, truth has the beginning, it has an ending. All right, and then truth has a beginning, it has a middle, has something that makes it flow. All right, then it has some type of ending,
Right. Khan. When we get that precept?
Khan, Baba Kushah.
Khan, this is Psalm 33 and verse 4. It says, for the word of Yahweh is right, and all his works are done in truth.
Everything is done in truth. All right. All the creation is done in truth. It has a beginning, a middle point, and an ending. That's essentially how it's made. And that's why the scriptures say, that everything has to, the city will be inhabited, all right, by truth. All right. Proverbs 29 and 2. All right. Also, Romans the 8th chapter, Essentially, nothing's being ran in truth. Nothing is being ran by the righteous rule book. Essentially, what's going on is Esau is ruling things with lies and deceptions. So it's throwing
Mhm.
a monkey wrench, into the plans, and essentially things aren't running as they should be. All right, and different things. They have like safety data sheets. All right, they got things like PMCS, preventive maintenance checks and services. To
Mhm.
where are you essentially you're something was made or something was manufactured, and this is essentially what you do to keep it running. All right, and all of creation essentially goes back to the truth. It goes back to the scriptures, and everything should be ran in that fashion.
Mhm. Yeah, because whenever you tell a lie, like we were talking about before we did the video, whenever you tell the truth, it encapsulates everything. So your truth is gonna hold that weight. It's gonna hold, like we mentioned, that water,
Mm-hmm.
right? But whenever you tell a lie, you know, whenever you tell a lie, there's a lot of holes in it. So
Right.
people could be able to poke through your lies. I mean, poke holes through your lies and be able to find out that, hey, it doesn't hold that weight, or it doesn't hold that water, right?
Right. Could you get
And
that? My bad.
you want me to get that Jeremiah 2?
Yeah, but you finish your point.
No, that was it. That was my point.
Okay.
Um, this is Jeremiah 2 and verse 13. Is that what you want me to get?
Could you pull it up on the screen, Baba Kusha?
Oh yeah, kind. Jeremiah 2 and 13. It says, "For my people have committed two evils. They have forsaken me, the fountain of living waters, and hewed them out cisterns, broken cisterns that can hold no water."
Right, and true truth. All right, essentially, is gonna hold that water. Remember, Amat, Ah is the beginning, Ma is the middle. All right, Tha is the ending. True truth is
Mhm.
gonna flow. Cause that it's gonna add up. You see, truth it holds the water. It's the true living water. You see, when we read again,
Mhm.
it says, "For my people have committed two evils. They have forsaken me, the fountain of living waters, the source." All right, the fountain. It
Mhm.
says, "And hewed them out cisterns, broken cisterns that can hold no water." All right, and a cistern is something that essentially it's designed, you see, to essentially be a vessel to hold some type of water. You see, but
Mhm.
which that essentially represents the false ideologies in different ways that 2/3 of Jake subscribe to. They don't really hold no water, and truth, or something that's going to supposed to be established, should hold water. Truth allows us to live. All right. Truth. The word for truth goes back into firm, reliable, and established. That's how it's supposed to be. If something is a reliable vessel, if it's established, all right, it's going to have some type of integrity. All right, it's going to be able to hold, a substance that's supposed to flow. You see, if it
Mhm.
can't hold no water, it don't hold no weight, and it ultimately will go back to the screenshot with those red letters, shaquar. It'll be a lie or falsehood, when ultimately we're supposed to be upheld in truth. I'm gonna read this real fast off the comment board though. This is
Mhm.
John chapter 17. Hold on. John chapter 17 and 17. It says, "Sanctify them through thy truth. Thy word is truth." Ultimately, again, the word goes into the truth, and pursuant to. I'm gonna get this real fast. This is Psalms chapter 19 and excuse me, Psalms 19 and 7. It says, "The law of the Lord is perfect, converting the soul. The testimony of the Lord is sure, making wise the simple." You see, so all of that goes back to this truth. All right. Ultimately,
Mhm.
the elect is cleansed through the truth. All right. Psalms 119 and 9. "Wherewithal shall a young man cleanse his way? By taking heed thereto, according to thy word." You see, because ultimately, again, we're supposed to be living off of the law, statutes, and commandments of the scriptures. And that's essentially the righteous rule book that keeps us going. All right. When Jake decides to subscribe to lies and false ideologies, that's when Jake fucks up. Going back to the precept we brought out earlier, I believe it was in Deuteronomy. Yashawan waxed fat and kicked.
Mhm. Khan, yeah, hey, and when Yahushua said, out of his belly shall flow rivers of living water. Of course, that's talking about the truth, right? Ultimately, but if like even when you tell a lie, right? Whenever you tell a lie, it doesn't come out, smooth. it doesn't flow, right? As we talked about it before, you know, how the truth pretty much flows. It doesn't, you can't really like with a lie, you gotta kind of like step back, you kind of gotta analyze what you're saying and kind of, you know what I'm saying? It doesn't come out naturally. But with
Right.
the truth is the truth, it just flows out.
Right. You gotta. And if you notice too, somebody that lie, they gotta try to create their own line, because then like they gotta
Mm-hmm.
chase their lies. Like, okay, this what happened. That's what happened. That they trying
Mm-hmm.
to make their own line, you see, but in the end, it's not going to be established. Again, you know, I got this for you real fast.
Mm-hmm.
Zama show y'all, this is Proverbs chapter 12 verse 19. It says, the lip of truth shall be established forever. Forever. It has a beginning and it's just going to flow. It's a line. It's linear. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it says, the lip of truth shall be established forever, but a lying tongue is but for a moment.
Mm-hmm.
And
Well,
pretty much
lying
going
tongue.
to,
Oh,
you
Salaki,
go,
go ahead, bro. Salaki.
It says a lying tongue is for a moment. Let's get that word for a moment. And it says ragai. It says to act in an instant, to stir up, disturb. It says to make a twinkling. It says to wink. And you know, like when you wink, pretty it says from the motion of the eyelids. You know, pretty much when you blink, you know, that's in the grand scheme of things. If we went back to that screenshot, you know, Amat, it essentially went from ah to ma to tha. All right, Allah just gonna be a small portion. Yeah, see, Allah is gonna be the red letter shakwar, be a small
Mm-hmm.
portion of that. It's gonna be like a blink. You know, going back to Job, ayah 20 and verse 5. You know, the joy of the hypocrite is but for a moment. All right, that moment would be that lie, that deception. You see, because they live in an altered reality. You know, their truth is their truth. You know, they feel like, you know, they feel how they want to feel. You know,
Mm-hmm.
but in the end, it's gonna have an ending. It's gonna, because as we notice, true truth goes from ah to ma to tha. It can't just go from ma to tha. All right, because ultimately that lie, that's why the last letter is tha. You see, because it's gonna be cut off by the ending anyway, and the true truth
Mm-hmm.
is gonna come out. Okay, like this is what happened. You know.
Mm-hmm. You know, that's beautiful too, because when you view it, as far as this truth that we're in, you know, and the lies that Esau has been promoting, you know, we're seeing that end of Esau's lies. I mean, the end of Esau's lies is coming. You know what I'm saying? We're at the
Mm-hmm.
end of his line. You know what I'm saying? He's over here trying to trace everything back, trying to fix his lies up, but we're seeing that he's caught, man. You know what I'm saying? There's no way he can fix those lies back. But uh, um Salaki, I lost my train of thought. But pretty much
God.
going back to what you were saying, um, you know, a truth, you know, when it comes to this, whenever it comes to this truth, my point was, this is my point. I pretty much caught it back. But pretty much what I was saying was that this truth, whenever you look at the world, right, Esau, but even our people, you know, the lies that they cleave to, you know, is going to be cut short here soon enough, you know. And the only thing that's going to hold weight, the only thing that's going to keep or hold water is going to be this truth, right?
Right.
The scriptures say in Isaiah 33:6, you know, wisdom knowledge should be stability of thy times. Everybody
Mm-hmm.
else, you know, what everybody else is out here, you know, in a major drought. You know, the scriptures talk about that too. You know, once the famine of the word comes in, how there's gonna be people just out here, you know, thirsting for this truth, because ultimately, like you mentioned, you know, they didn't have the cisterns, they didn't have the right cisterns to contain that water. They didn't abide in truth.
They
So
wasn't
ultimately, they're going to be without water in the end.
right. They wasn't essentially connected to the true source. You know, because
Mm-hmm.
you know, like that's why it says right here, John 4 and John 4 and 13, 11. It says, the woman saith unto him, Sir, thou hast nothing to draw with. Verse 10, verse 9. It's yeah, verse 7. This is John
Mm-hmm.
4 and 7. It says, there cometh a woman of Samaria to draw water. Yahweh Shai saith unto her, Give me to drink. For his disciples were gone away unto the city to buy meat. Then saith the woman of Samaria unto him, How is it that thou, being a Jew, askest drink of me, which am a woman of Samaria? For the Jews have no dealings with the Samaritans. Cause pretty much it was during that time, it was implants in there or transplants. It says, the woman saith unto him, it says, so like verse 10, it says, Yahweh Shai answered her and said unto her, if thou knewest the gift of the Most High, and who it is that saith to thee, give me to drink, thou wouldest have asked of him, and he would have given thee living water. Talking about, the true living water, going into these scriptures. So it says, the woman said unto him, Sir, thou hast nothing to draw with, and the well is deep. And she was talking about the actual water. For whence then hast thou that living water? Art thou greater than our father Jacob, which gave us the well, and drank thereof himself and his children and his cattle? Because she thought that she ultimately derived from that lineage, but again, it was transplants pursuant to one of the books of Kings. But it says, Yahweh Shai answered and said unto her, whosoever drinketh of this water shall thirst again. But whoso drinketh of the water that I shall give him shall never thirst. But the water that I shall give him shall be in him a well of water springing up into everlasting life. Truth is forever, you see. But then also, it's connected to the true source. All right, and if we connect it to that true source, essentially what we will be established. Truth is established, which brings me to this precept right here. When I say established, that goes into certainty. This is Proverbs, Mashal chapter 22, and verse 20. It says, have I not written to thee excellent things and counsels and knowledge, that I might make thee know the certainty of the words of truth? Let me get this word for certainty. I'm gonna run it back. The word for certainty, it says quashat, and it says bow, truth, balance, verity. Truth is balance. That's why it's a bow right there. From ah to ma, it's still on line, but it curves, But I'm gonna read it again. It says bow, truth, balance, verity. Truth is perfectly balanced. It says equity as evenly weighed, reality, truth. Going back to, I'm gonna get this real fast. I'm gonna go back to that. So like I know I'm all over the place right now, but this is Yashaya Isaiah chapter 59 and we start at verse 13. It says, in transgressing and lying against the Lord and departing from our power, speaking oppression and revolt and conceiving and uttering from the heart words of falsehood, shaquar, and judgment is turned away backward, and justice standeth afar off. For truth is fallen in the street, and equity cannot enter. True equity goes back to the truth. All right, because truth again is perfectly balanced. All right, it has a beginning, a middle, and an ending. All right, it ain't just going to be a short portion. And that was essentially highlighting that can be applied to America, Babylon the Great in these times right now. You see, but that was highlighting Jake, how Jake was essentially acting when Jake was in rulership. 2/3. But this is Proverbs 22 and verse 19 again. It says that thy trust may be in the Lord. I have made known to thee this day, even to thee have I not written to thee excellent things and counsels and knowledge, that I might make thee know the certainty of the words of truth, that thou mightest answer the words of truth to them that send unto thee. All right, and essentially, words of truth, all right, they're certain. All right, it's going to be balanced. It's going to show true equity, and when we go back to equity, it goes back to, what's right and what's normal. All right, lies are not going to be normal, and neither is it going to be balanced, But from there, let's get you can get John chapter 3 and verse 21. I'm gonna get 2 Corinthians 13 and 8.
Kai, want me to read it?
Kai, you go ahead.
Kai, this is John chapter 3 and verse 21. It says, but he that doeth truth.
You start at 19.
Kai, this is John 3 and 19. It says, and this is the condemnation, that light is come into the world, and men love darkness rather than light, because their deeds were evil.
Right. 2/3 of Jake, the wicked, they ultimately really going into Jake, Jake loves to abide in a deception, because that deception is like, damn, it shit feel good. Jake love to be lied to. They like, they got them itching ears. They want to be lied to. They don't want to hear the truth, because again, the truth is going to encompass Revelation 10 and 9 to 10. You know, it's gonna encompass the sweet and the bitter. Jake don't want
Mm-hmm.
Jake be trying to ignore the bitter. You gotta eat the whole thing, you know.
Mm-hmm. Verse 20. For everyone that doeth evil hateth the light, neither cometh to the light, lest his deeds should be reproved.
Right. So it says, for everyone that doeth evil hateth the light. You know, because what is the true light? The true light go. I am the way, the truth, and the life. Roughly paraphrasing, Yahweh Shai ultimately is the light, the truth. You know, the way, the water. All right. Because ultimately, when again, you know, keep referencing that screenshot, Shaquar. All right. Yeah, it had its course. You see, but then it met the ending. You see, and that's ultimately they don't want to be they don't want their stuff to be revealed. You know,
Mm-hmm.
so essentially they got to hide behind that lie. You see, but in the end, it's all gonna come out in the end because going back to Proverbs 12 or 22, it said the words of certainty. You know, roughly paraphrasing, the words of truth. You know, because the truth is certain. All right, and again, the truth has the beginning, the ending, or excuse me, the beginning, the middle, and the ending, and it's all gonna flow. It's not just gonna be, you know, something that the true truth is gonna line up, and that's why it goes
Mm-hmm.
back to the line. It's gonna line up. It's gonna make sense. You know.
Mm-hmm. Con. Verse 21. But he that doeth truth cometh to the light, that his deeds may be made manifest, that they are wrought in the Most High.
Right. He that doeth truth cometh to the light. You know, because abiding in the light is abiding in the truth. You know, and that's why I said that truth is gonna flow. That's why Ma is in the middle. Ma's Mayam is water. So someone that's abiding the truth, they don't have no problem with going from you know, they're gonna flow like water to the ending. All right,
Mm-hmm.
Shaquar, when we got that screenshot, it was red in the spirit of Esau Edom, you know. He hide from the truth, you know, he sweat, you know. He ultimately he's being exposed, you know.
Mm-hmm.
To go back to that exposure. But I'm gonna get this. This is Second Corinthians chapter 13. We'll get verse 8. And it says, for we can do nothing against the truth, but for the truth. It's only we can only do no one or everyone can do nothing for the truth, or excuse me. It says, for we can do nothing against the truth. No one can do anything against the truth before the truth, because the truth is just gonna flow. It's a saying in the world, the bus gonna keep going, it's gonna keep rolling. You know, the
Mm-hmm.
truth is just gonna flow. Prophecy is gonna continue to happen. All right, I'm gonna get this real fast because this is second Esdras, just to validate the point. This is second Esdras chapter 15, and we'll get verse 1. It says, behold, speak thou in the ears of my people the words of prophecy, which I will put in thy mouth, saith the Lord, and cause them to be written in paper, for they are faithful and true. Faithful and true, the words of certainty. It says, fear not the imaginations against thee, let not the incredulity of them trouble thee that speak against thee, for all the unfaithful shall die in their unfaithfulness. So everybody got a piece of the pie, you know. So
Mm-hmm.
those that abide in truth, you know, they're essentially going to be covered. All right, the elect, you see, but those that come up against the truth, they got their part in the story too. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's just they're just gonna get destroyed. You see, because again, the bus is gonna keep rolling. The words of truth, it's certain, it's
Mm-hmm.
established. All right, it's firm. You know.
Right. Con. And may I get this preset for you?
Yeah, you got it.
Because I was thinking about where it was at, but that kind of made me lose my train of thought. But this is Amos 8 and verse 11. It says, behold, the days come, saith the Lord power, that I will send a famine in the land, not a famine of bread, nor a thirst for water, but of hearing the words of Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai. Right? So that's a time period we're coming into, right? Verse 12, and they shall wander from sea to sea, and from the north even to the east. They shall run to and fro and seek the word of Yahweh, and shall not find it. In that day shall the fair virgins and young men faint for thirst, right? And why are they going to faint for thirst? Because exactly what it says right here, right in Second Esdras. For all the unfaithful shall die in their faithfulness, because they didn't trust in the truth. They didn't
Mm-hmm.
abide in they didn't have the water, right? And I was just going back to what you said, the joy of a hypocrite is but for a moment, because Jake is abiding the lies. They love the lies. They love the sweet taste of lies. So
Mm-hmm.
they just, they eat it up, man. Like you mentioned, whenever you come to the truth, you gotta take the bitter. And Jake don't want the bitter. Jake, all he wants is the honey. That's all he wants, sweetness, right? So at the end, you're gonna vomit all that up, huh?
Right, showing you that Jake got parasites. You know, that's why Jake crave so much sweets. You know, but we got how to sweet with the bitter. You know,
Right.
this is Galatians chapter 4 and verse 16. It says, "Am I therefore become your enemy because I tell you the truth?" And a lot of times, you know, by default, you know, Jake really Jake really got has something against the truth, and reason being because they want to be lied to. I got this Google AI overview. It says, it says, why do people like lies? It says people lie for a variety of reasons, ranging from simple social etiquette to protecting themselves or others, and even due to underlying mental health conditions. Common motivations include avoiding punishment, protecting someone's feelings. All right, and when we go into what ultimately gives people the courage to lie, all right, it goes into their pride. You know, the word for pride in Hebrew is ga'ah, and that God goes into we understand that in the Hebrew alphabet, the God goes into a camel, to lift, to carry, and then also a foot. You see, well, when you apply the foot to that, all right, foot, and then you got the eye, all right, foot strength. All right, but what do your feet do? They carry. You know, so carrying strength. That's what the saying goes back to in the world. You know, you ain't got a leg to stand on. So what really the lies go back to is it gives people a foot to stand on, so to speak. But you know what happens when that leg is snatched up under you? You see, because it's a false sense of security. You know, mentioned in Proverbs 1 and verse 32. You know that word for security goes back to security, genuine or false. Really, these people are abiding in a false sense of security, and it's just, you know, for a moment. You know, that they survived enough an amputated leg. You know, they got the, you know, the little what do you call it, the little metal thing. You know, but it says common motivations include avoiding punishment, protecting someone's feelings, and which the scriptures say, you know, cry aloud, spare not, lift up thy voice like a trumpet. You know, don't spare these people's feelings. You see, because the truth is going to abide. You know, and it is what it is. You know, it says protecting someone's feelings, maintaining a good image. People got that image. You know, they got that sense of reality that they trying to uphold. It says gaining an advantage, or simply because they wish the lie were true. You know, it says self-preservation, avoiding negative consequences, because really it goes back to John, the 3rd chapter. It says avoiding punishment, protecting oneself, maintaining privacy, avoiding embarrassment or shame. It says protecting someone's feelings, maintaining social harmony, and making a good impression, gaining advantage, feeling in control. It says low self-esteem, cognitive dissonance, which a lot of Jake really goes back to cognitive dissonance, and that goes to, it says when a person's actions or beliefs conflict with their self-image or values, they may lie to reduce the mental discomfort caused by the conflict. So whatever, I mean, it got a whole bunch of them listed, but well, I'm gonna read them. It says impulsivity, pathological lying, narcissism. It says wishful thinking to obtain a reward, deceive others for personal gain, to hide misdeeds, to control a situation, in which none of those scriptures say, you know, the lip of pretty much lying lips is only but for a moment. You see, so all of it comes out in the end, you know. And really going back again, I'm gonna read it again. This is John chapter 3 and verse 21, or I'm sorry, verse 19. That'd be it if you ain't had nothing else, bro.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
This is John 3 and 19. It says, and this is the condemnation, that light is come into the world, and men love darkness rather than light, because their deeds were evil. Really, people, you know, they deeds are wicked. You know, they don't want to be found out. Could you get the precept that talks about there is nothing that shall be hid that, you know, that shall not come to the light.
God.
But it says, for everyone that doeth evil hateth the light, neither cometh to the light, lest his deeds should be reproved. So Jake is a reverse flies, so to speak. You know, because the flies they flock to the, you know, at night they got the little zapping light or whatever. Jake run from the light, you know. But it says, for everyone that doeth evil hateth the light, neither cometh to the light, lest his deeds should be reproved. But he that doeth truth cometh to the light, that his deeds may be made manifest, that they are wrought in the Most High. So those that are essentially abiding in the truth, it's all going to flow, you know, from the beginning to the middle to the end. That's why Ma is used, you know. And also, Ma goes into a time of testing, you see, because regardless of if it's a test there, those that are working truth, they're gonna flow right along. They're gonna go through the time of testing, and it's gonna flow to the end.
Con, I got that for you.
God.
This is Mark 4 and verse 22. Excuse me, verse 22. It says, "For there is nothing hid which shall not be manifested, neither was anything kept secret, but that it should come abroad."
Right. Everything that's essentially, Jake deepest, 2/3 Jake deepest, darkest secrets. The Lord reveal all that. Jake feel like they essentially pulling a fast one, but nah, the Lord got your number. This is Sirach 1:30. It says, "Exalt not thyself, lest thou fall." And remember, we had brought up the word for God, which was pride. That ultimately goes into self exaltation. It says, "Exalt not thyself, lest thou fall." Because going back to that pride, if Jake got carrying strength, because really it says, "Exalt not thyself, lest thou fall." If you only got one leg to stand on, you're not truly balanced. Truth is balanced. It says, "Exalt not thyself, lest thou fall, and bring dishonor upon thy soul. And so the Most High discovered thy secrets, and cast thee down in the midst of the congregation, because thou camest not in the truth to the fear of the Lord, but thy heart is full of deceit." You see, so those that are essentially abiding, those that are living in those red letters, can you go back to the screenshot, Abu Kushar? So again, it has the true truth has all of that. Truth is linear, all right, and then it has the bow because it shows balance, all right. But those that are not balanced, those that are essentially serve as an example for Bonsarat 1 and verse 30, they're not going to be balanced. They're not going to have any type of true verity and establishment. Those are the ones that's going to fall over. They got that. They carrying that false sense of strength. With the one they got the peg leg. But it says Shaquar, you see, because it only has that brief moment. That they are essentially winning. And I'm gonna get one more, and then that'll be it. This is Quahalat Ecclesiastes chapter 8. We'll get verse 10, verse 11. And it says, "Because sentence against an evil work is not executed speedily, therefore the heart of the sons of men is fully set in them to do evil." For that brief moment in time, they're able to perpetrate the lies and do all that stuff and build up that tab, you see. But ultimately, again, as these verses are going to go into, they're going to receive a recompense. It says the heart of the sons of men is fully set in them to do evil. So because they're not judged right then and there, they feel as if they can just continue on. They're like, fuck it. Verse 12, it says, "Though a sinner do evil 100 times and his days be prolonged, yet surely I know that it shall be well with them that fear the Most High, which fear before him those that are essentially abiding in the truth," because they're going to be balanced. They're going to essentially flow. And Bruce Lee had a saying. He said, "Be water. Water flows. It takes the shape of whatever it is, but it's going to flow. It's going to get to its destination." And that's why Ma again is used in the middle, because it's going to flow. But it says, "Though a sinner do evil 100 times and his days be prolonged, yet surely I know that it shall be well with them that fear the Most High, which fear before him." The reason I want to bring that up is because those are essentially fearing the Lord. They're going to flow. And it says, "But it shall not be well with the wicked, neither shall he prolong his days." And that's why Shaquar is right before the Tha, and Tha represents in the Hebrew alphabet the ending, you see, because it's not going to be prolonged. It has a specific time period. But Job 14 and 5, I'm gonna get that real fast. I'm gonna come back to that, and then we'll go ahead and close. This is Job 14 and verse 5. It says, "Seeing his days are determined, the number of his months are with thee. Thou hast appointed his bounds that he cannot pass." Essentially going into Esau, you see. But then those that are essentially abiding in, lies and deception, they got bounds that they can't pass. That lies is going to reach an ending. It's going to reach an end point. It says, verse 12, "But it should not be well with the wicked, neither shall he prolong his days, which are as a shadow, because he feareth not before the Most High." You see, so ultimately, those that don't abide in truth, those that don't essentially abide in true equity, balance, and righteousness, it's only for a moment, and they're going to reap destruction. They're going to be rewarded, pursuant to Psalms, the 28th chapter, the 3rd and the 4th verse. But that's pretty much all I had, bro. If you had none.
Con, I have one actually, real quick. this is John 17:17. It says, "Sanctify them through thy truth. Thy word is truth." Right, and that's how the elect are being gathered together. Being sanctified, being brought back. To remembrance. Because you quoted what was it? John 8:32. You shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. Right. That's essentially what's breaking the strongholds. The lies that Esau has been allowed to pretty much promote throughout the earth, and really to pretty much entrap the minds of Jake. But hey, this truth is dismantling all that, man. So again, hey, like you mentioned, the joy of a hypocrite is but for a moment. Esau's rulership is only temporary compared to eternity. This lifespan of Esau's kingdom is really very short. It's really a very short moment compared to eternity, as we're about to experience. But hey, we're coming to the end of this thing, man. Esau's time, Esau's lies, all that is coming to an end.
Right.
And it's all because the truth is here.
Right. Scripture say, the knowledge of the glory of the Lord shall cover the earth as it does the sea. So hey, the bus gonna keep rolling. It's gonna, and fuck what a nigga got to say. The scriptures is faithful and true. You see, so that's pretty much all I had, bro.
God, that was it.
God, I don't want to zaza about now your Lord's what that was a beautiful edification through the spirit. Well, I don't want to zaza atam yash. Yawam Tawab, Lord, as well. You all have a good day. Wa shalom lakam, which is peace unto you all. Well, we'll go ahead and close it out by saying, Call halayim la, Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rucha Kodash. Well, double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone that taught us his truth and rule well. And much respect to you, bros, out there pushing his truth with all righteousness and sincere shalom, shalom, shalom lakam.
Shalom.